Let's slow everything down for a moment. Not the kind of slowing that feels like waiting. Not the anxious pause that comes when you're hoping someone will notice you, text you, choose you. I mean the kind of slowing that brings you back into yourself. The kind that feels like standing barefoot on solid. Ground again after spending too long floating in someone else's uncertain tides. Because that's where this begins. You've been told that love is a game, that attraction is strategy, that connection is something you manipulate into existence. Advice after advice whispering the same outdated script. Don't text him first. Wait 3 days. Act mysterious. Pull away so he'll chase you. This has been sold as power. But the truth is, it's fear. Fear of not being chosen. Fear of being too much. Fear of being forgotten. And fear is the lowest currency of love. Because no matter how long you wait to text back, no matter how perfectly you play the role of hard to get, no matter how silent you become, silence without presence doesn't create longing. It creates emptiness. You don't want to be a memory that flickers and fades. You want to be a memory that breathes. So let's dismantle the lie right now. Disappearing does not make you unforgettable. You become unforgettable when your presence has depth, authenticity, gravity. When the way you show up lingers longer than your absence ever could. There is a difference, a profound difference, between withholding and grounding. One is performance, the other is power. And the moment you understand that difference, everything changes. Because the women who leave the deepest marks on a man's life are not the ones who play the game the best. They are the ones who are rooted in themselves, the ones who love without losing themselves, the ones who offer connection, not performance. The ones who don't try to be chosen, because they already know the value of their presence. That kind of presence is what turns absence into gravity. When a woman is deeply anchored in herself, she can step back without disappearing. She can be silent without vanishing. Her energy remains. Her presence echoes. Her absence has weight. And that is what creates longing. Not manipulation. Not emotional withholding. Not disappearing to be chased. But presence that was so real, so grounded, so alive, that when it's gone, it leaves a space nothing else quite fits. So before we talk about what to do, we must talk about who you are when you show up. Think about the last time you really met someone with presence, someone who didn't have to talk loudly, didn't have to impress, didn't have to perform, someone who simply was themselves fully without fear. You felt them, not just their words, not just their beauty, their energy. The way the room felt slightly different when they walked in, the way silence didn't feel awkward around them, the way conversations felt effortless instead of forced. That is the kind of presence we're talking about, the kind that lingers. This presence begins with stillness, with knowing that your value does not rise when someone praises you and does not fall when someone pulls away. It is the stillness of knowing, I am already whole, and in that wholeness, something powerful happens. Your love becomes an offering, not a chase. Your silence becomes spacious, not empty. Your presence becomes magnetic, not performative. This is where emotional maturity meets feminine power. Because real attraction does not come from making yourself scarce. It comes from making your presence meaningful, from the way you listen, from the way you breathe, from the way you speak with intention instead of urgency, from the way your energy remains calm instead of reactive. Everyone else is performing. Everyone else is scrambling for attention. Everyone else is trying to be louder. But you become the quiet that is unforgettable. The woman rooted in herself does not panic when someone pulls back. She does not rush to fill silence. She does not fear space, because she knows she is the space. She knows that when she leaves, she doesn't leave emptiness. She leaves presence. She leaves warmth. She leaves memory. She leaves a feeling. And feelings are what men remember, not words, not tactics, not games. Feelings. The feeling of being seen instead of impressed. The feeling of being safe instead of tested. The feeling of being met instead of handled. When you embody this depth, your presence becomes rare, and rarity is what the heart remembers. So let's begin here. Not with what you should do to make a man miss you, but with who you allow yourself to be. Because when a woman is aligned with her truth, not shrinking, not performing, not adjusting her voice to fit someone else's comfort, She becomes unmistakably magnetic. Not loud, not dramatic, not flashy, but undeniably present. This is the foundation of everything that comes next. The shift from performing to embodying, from chasing to allowing, from fear to sovereignty, from noise to depth. Because at the end of the day, you are not trying to make someone miss you. You are remembering how to show up so fully in your truth that your presence becomes unforgettable. Not because you tried, but because you finally became. There is a silence that repels and a silence that restores. One is empty, anxious, calculated, the kind that waits by the phone and calls it strength. The other is full, grounded, and luminous. The kind that steps back without collapsing. That breathes instead of begs. That holds its shape even when nobody is watching. That second kind is where your magnetism lives. Silence with substance is not a tactic. It is an atmosphere you carry. It begins with an inner statement. I will not make panicked decisions. When you stop organizing your behavior around fear, fear of losing him, fear of missing out, fear of being replaced, you start organizing it around values. Values don't stutter. Values don't send mixed signals. Values make your choices clean. And clean choices leave clean echoes. When you withdraw into something, into routine, into craft, into friendships that nourish, into sleep that repairs, into prayer, meditation, movement, deep work, creativity, into anything that reminds you your life is a wide landscape and not a single road leading to one person's approval. Absence that returns you to yourself is felt differently than absence that circles a man's shadow. He will feel the difference because people sense when you go quiet to manipulate and when you go quiet to mature. One triggers resistance. The other invites reflection. When your silence is saturated with self-respect, it becomes a mirror. It shows him where he coasted. It shows him where he conflated your warmth with availability. It shows him what he felt but never named. Your presence was stable. And stability is rare. You are not withdrawing to punish. You are withdrawing to purify. Purify your nervous system from checking habits. Purify your schedule from emotional junk food. Purify your standards from the sugar rush of empty promises. This is where dignity enters the room. It does not slam doors. It closes them softly and locks them gently, not to keep anyone out, but to keep your peace in. From that place, boundaries stop sounding like speeches and start sounding like weather, clear, consistent, predictable. You don't need to announce a storm. You simply stop granting access that costs you clarity. Your no becomes quiet and firm. Your yes becomes intentional and rare. And the paradox is that the more selective your energy becomes, the more expansive your impact grows. Scarcity isn't your power. Specificity is. Consider 3 practices that give your silence shape. 1. The anchor ritual. Choose one daily ritual that steadies you. A morning walk without your phone. 15 minutes of breath work. Journaling 3 pages uncensored. Reading a few paragraphs that remind you who you are. Do it every day regardless of his mood, his texts, his timing. Consistency tells your nervous system, I am safe inside my own rhythm. Men feel the difference between a woman, anchored in rhythm, and a woman, adrift in reaction. 2. The bright line boundary. Pick one behavior you no longer entertain. Last-minute plans, disappearing acts, breadcrumb communication, intimacy without emotional follow-through. Don't argue about it. Don't deliver a thesis. Live it. Bright lines need no explanation because your actions repeat them, kindly and unflinchingly. Boundaries that survive silence become standards. 3. The witness chair. When the urge to reach out surges, pause and watch it from a distance, as if sitting in a chair above your own mind. Name what you feel without fixing it. Craving, fear, tenderness, longing. Feelings that are witnessed faithfully tend to loosen their grip. The more you can watch your weather, the less you behave like a storm. None of this is about being hard to get. It's about being hard to shake. And that brings us to a second, deeper truth. You never need to shrink to be chosen. Shrinking seems safe because it has immediate rewards. Fewer conflicts, more approval, quicker good vibes. But every time you compress your truth, You create a debt inside your soul that must be paid later with interest, resentment, self-betrayal, depletion. Intimacy can't breathe under that weight. Standing at full height is not aggression. It is clarity. Clarity is compassionate because it allows both people to make real choices. When you express a standard without performance, you don't force him to rise. You reveal whether he wants to. Your power is not in the push. It is in the reveal. Ask yourself, what parts of me go dim around attraction? Do you soften your voice until your needs vanish? Do you laugh off dismissiveness that actually hurt? Do you overfunction so you won't be left? If the answer stings, you are not failing. You're waking. And waking is a sacred violence, not against others, but against the illusions that kept you small. You won't be loud. You won't be cruel. You will be precise. Precision is the art of conserving energy. It says only what must be said and spends attention where it compounds. Purpose, health, friendship, calling. From here, something beautiful occurs. The men who are in love with your performance lose interest. The men who are capable of presence take note. Presence recognizes presence. It is not dazzled by fireworks. It is drawn to flame, steady, abiding, unforced. This is what lighthouse really means. A lighthouse doesn't swivel to follow every ship. It does not plead with fog, outshout the sea, or sprint along the shore. It stands, it shines, it keeps its appointments with the dark. Its constancy is its charisma. And ships, whether they admit it or not, navigate by such light. If he confuses your calm with coldness, your standards with ego, your pauses with punishment, let time teach what your words cannot. Clarity often sounds harsh to those addicted to ambiguity. Stay kind. Stay scarce where you must, abundant where it matters. Generosity without boundaries breeds entitlement. Generosity with boundaries breeds gratitude. You will be misunderstood at times. Do not abandon your post, because the women who are remembered are not the easiest, nor the loudest, nor the most available. They are the clearest. Clarity creates contour. Contour creates contrast. Contrast creates memory. When a man experiences your clarity, his nervous system recognizes a form of peace that entertainment can't imitate. He may wander toward noise. He will measure it against your quiet. Let action be your editor. If he says he wants connection but schedules you like an afterthought, believe the calendar. If he says he respects you but disappears when accountability arrives, believe the absence. If he says he's ready but keeps you in someday, believe the delay. Watching patterns is not cynicism. It is stewardship. You are stewarding your time, your tenderness, your future home. You are curating the energy that will raise your children, shape your work, flavor your days. Curation is love's discipline. Here is a sentence to memorize. I release anyone who requires my self-betrayal to stay. Release without ceremony. Release without revenge. Release without. A speech drafted at 2 a.m. You are not the bail bondsman for someone else's potential. You are the guardian of your atmosphere. When you guard it well, absence becomes eloquent. It does the talking you no longer need to do. It doesn't slam, it settles. And settling is louder than slamming ever was. Now notice what fills the space. More breath, more focus, more faithful friends returning, more sleep that actually heals, more beauty in your room, on your plate, in your schedule. When beauty increases, attachment to chaos weakens. Beauty is therapy stealthily sewn into your everyday. A vase of fresh flowers can be a boundary. A clear desk can be a declaration. A quiet evening can be a revolution. From the outside, it looks like you did nothing. From the inside, you changed everything. Because you stopped arguing with reality and started aligning with it. You stopped collecting red flags like souvenirs. You stopped calling chemistry fate when it was really adrenaline. You stopped punishing yourself with maybe. And as maybe drained away, room opened for yes. Yes to being fully seen without dimming. Yes to being fully heard without pleading. Yes to being fully wanted without performing. This yes is not loud. It is lucid. Lucidity is unforgettable. So let your silence be saturated, not hollow. Let your boundaries be breathable, not brittle. Let your presence be steady enough that when you step back, the echo is unmistakable. And if anyone asks what changed, you won't need to explain. You stood up inside your own life. There is a moment, subtle, quiet, almost invisible, where a woman decides whether she will dim or rise. It doesn't happen in grand speeches or dramatic exits. It happens in small choices, tiny compromises, the places where you say, it's fine, even when it is not. The places where you swallow your truth to keep the peace. The places where you make yourself just a little smaller so he will stay just a little longer. That is the moment where power is either kept or surrendered. And what we are doing here, what you are doing by listening, breathing, absorbing, is reclaiming those moments. Not with anger, not with demands, not with ultimatums, but with presence. Because shrinking is not soft. Shrinking is self-abandonment. It is the quiet erosion of your own voice. It is the slow forgetting of your own center. And a love that requires you to shrink is not love. It is emotional dependency disguised as compatibility. You were never meant to dilute yourself to fit into someone else's cup. Your depth is not a burden. Your standards are not too much. Your sensitivity is not a flaw. Your intensity is not a liability. These are the very qualities that make you unforgettable, when you allow them to live instead of tucking them behind your back. But here is the truth most people never say. It takes courage to remain whole in love. Not the kind of courage that roars, the kind of courage that stands. Because to remain whole, you must be willing to lose things. Attention, approval, temporary closeness. You must be willing to hold silence when your heart wants to reach. You must be willing to accept that not everyone is meant to walk with you at your full height. And that's where rising begins. Rising is not loud. Rising is steady. It is the slow reclaiming of every part of yourself you once placed on layaway in someone else's hands. It is remembering, I am allowed to take up space. Your thoughts can take up space. Your needs can take up space. Your emotions can take up space. Your boundaries can take up space. You do not have to fold yourself down to fit into someone's comfort zone. Because the right man, the man rooted in his own maturity, does not fear a woman who is whole. He rises to meet her. He recognizes her clarity as a signal, not a threat. He feels her standards as an invitation, not a challenge. He understands that a woman who knows herself makes love deeper, richer, safer, more real. This is the difference between passion and partnership. Passion without grounding burns fast. Partnership burns slow and steady. But partnership requires that both people stand at their full height. And so we return to presence. Presence is not about being physically near someone. It is the energy you bring when you are there. Ask yourself, when I am with someone, am I actually present? Or am I auditioning? Do you try to appear easygoing so you won't scare him? Do you silence your intuition to protect his comfort? Do you pretend that something doesn't matter when it does? Every time you silence yourself, you are teaching your body that your truth is dangerous. That love requires sacrifice of self. That your desires are too heavy to hold. But your desires are not heavy. They are directional. They tell you where your soul wants to go. Your boundaries are not walls. They are doors with locks that require earned access. Your standards are not demands. They are agreements with yourself about how you will be treated. Your emotions are not drama. They are signals. When you embrace these truths, something shifts inside you. Your posture changes. Your tone softens but strengthens. Your presence becomes calmer, richer, slower. You become less interested in being chosen and more interested in choosing. You stop performing. And when you stop performing, the world around you reorganizes. The men who are drawn to your compliance lose interest. The men who feared depth become uncomfortable. The men who depended on your emotional labor fall away. Let them, because falling away is not loss. It is filtration. And what remains after filtration is real. Real attraction, real intimacy, real partnership. And yes, real longing. Because a woman who stands in her full presence does not leave silently. When she steps back, she leaves an imprint. Not because she tried to, but because the atmosphere she created was real. When she listened, she actually listened. When she loved, she actually loved. When she touched with her whole being. When she was with you, she was with you. That is what men remember, not the silence, not the distance, not the absence itself. They remember the presence that came before the absence. And so when she steps back, gracefully, without drama, without threat, she does not disappear. She expands. she expands back into herself, into her rituals, into her friendships, into her passions, into her breathing, living life. And that expansion is felt. He will feel the difference between a woman who pulls away to punish and a woman who steps back to return to her wholeness. One creates anxiety. The other creates reflection. One triggers fear. The other awakens awareness. Because when you step back in wholeness, you are not saying, "Come chase me." You are saying, "If you want to meet me, rise." And rising is a choice only he can make. Your job is not to convince him to rise. Your job is to remain at your height, to hold your posture, to breathe in your truth, to remember who you were before fear taught you to shrink. Because a woman who knows herself is not unforgettable because she is hard to get. She is unforgettable because she is hard to replace. Absence reveals what presence created. If your presence was shallow, your absence will barely be noticed. But if your presence was rooted, calming, grounding, real, your absence becomes unmistakable. It does not ache in the mind. It aches in the nervous system, because peace is felt in the body first. And when your presence has offered someone peace, steadiness, clarity, and truth, the body remembers, even when the mind tries to forget. This is why women who embody calm strength are unforgettable. Not because they are difficult, not because they are cold, not because they play games, but because their presence is rare, and rarity leaves an imprint. Now, this does not mean you suppress your emotions. This does not mean you become silent when hurt. This does not mean you pretend you don't care. Stoic love is not emotional suppression. It is emotional responsibility. It is the ability to feel deeply without becoming reactive, to express truth without losing grace, to stay open without leaking your power. It is the woman who says, "I can love you and not lose myself. I can feel desire and still choose dignity. I can want you without needing you to define my worth." This is the kind of emotional maturity that creates impact, not through volume, but through presence. And presence is amplified by stillness. Stillness does not mean lack of movement. Stillness means movement with intention. A woman in stillness does not rush to respond. She listens. She doesn't react, she observes. She doesn't cling, she breathes. She doesn't try to force clarity. She allows clarity to reveal, because she knows that truth does not require urgency. Truth does not require persuasion. Truth does not require emotional acrobatics. Truth simply is. And the moment you stop chasing reassurance, the moment you stop trying to decode every message, the moment you stop treating love like a performance evaluation, your entire energy changes. You become grounded. You become steady. You become magnetic. Because nothing is more attractive than a woman who is not afraid of her own silence. The woman who can sit in the quiet is the woman who holds power. The world teaches women to perform, to always be doing something. Be available. Be sweet. Be accommodating. Be interesting. Be entertaining. Be impressive. But being is enough. When you step into your being, the calm, unforced, sovereign feminine, something radical happens. You stop trying to be chosen. You start choosing. Choosing who enters your space. Choosing who has access to your softness. Choosing who receives your vulnerability. Choosing who earns the privilege of your time. Selection replaces chasing. And that shift, that internal repositioning, is what makes you unforgettable. Because men feel when they are being selected, not waited on. They feel when your love is offered from abundance, not fear. They feel when your presence is a gift, not a plea. And the right man, the man emotionally mature enough to stand beside a grounded woman, will not run from this energy. He will rise to it. Because your steadiness invites his steadiness. Your clarity invites his clarity. Your self-possession invites his leadership. Your peace invites his depth. Your presence gives him a new standard for what intimacy feels like. Not intensity, not chaos, not performance. Presence, which brings us to one of the deepest truths. You cannot become unforgettable by trying to be unforgettable. You become unforgettable by being fully here when you're here, and fully with yourself when you're gone. This is the paradox. You do not become magnetic by being hard to reach. You become magnetic by being rooted when reached. You do not become irresistible by disappearing. You become irresistible by offering soul, steadiness, breath, and depth. Then stepping back into your center when needed. Presence first, absence second. Impact lives in the combination of both. So when you step back, do it without flinching. Do it without analysis. Do it without waiting to see how he reacts. Step back because you are returning to yourself. Step back because you respect your emotional ecosystem. Step back because you know your value does not shrink in solitude, it expands, and he will feel that expansion. Not immediately, not always consciously, not always dramatically, but slowly, in the quiet, in the in-between moments, when he's driving, when he wakes up, when he's surrounded by noise, but something is missing. He will feel the absence of being seen the way you saw him. He will feel the absence of being heard the way you listened. He will feel the absence of being safe the way your presence made him feel safe. And he will search for that feeling in others. But what is real cannot be replicated. Not warmth without grounding, not attention without sincerity, not intimacy without truth, not connection without depth. And that is where longing begins. Not longing for you, the person, but longing for the feeling you awaken. Because the real imprint you leave is not your beauty, your body, your words, or your memories. It is the energetic regulation your presence created. The peace, the clarity, the ease, the exhale, the quiet in his mind that only existed around you. That is why you do not chase. Not because you are proving a point, but because your presence already made the point. Your absence simply reveals it. There comes a moment, slow, gradual, and deeply quiet, where something inside you shifts. Not because of him, not because of what he did or didn't do, but because you finally remembered yourself. You stop asking, how do I make him see my value? And begin asking, do I see my value? And the moment your answer becomes yes, everything changes. You stop chasing closure. You stop rehearsing conversations in your mind. You stop trying to rewind or rewrite what already unfolded. You begin to breathe differently. Your chest feels less heavy. Your voice returns to its natural depth. Your mind stops looping around unanswered questions. Your heart stops begging to be held by hands that aren't steady enough. Because you realize you were not waiting for him to choose you. You were waiting for you to choose yourself. And now you have. This is where you become the woman who is never replaced. Not because you're impossible to find, but because what you offer cannot be manufactured. There are many women who can offer beauty, charm, conversation, excitement, attention, intimacy, but very few offer presence. Very few offer depth. Very few offer peace. And peace is the rarest of all emotional experiences. Think about it. Most people are not at peace within themselves. They are in constant reaction mode, triggered, anxious, scrolling, proving, performing, chasing, to meet a woman who is not moved by chaos, who does not need attention to feel whole, who does not abandon herself to avoid abandonment, is to meet something ancient, something timeless, something deeply human, something the soul recognizes. So if he leaves or pulls back or drifts, let him, not as punishment, not as strategy, not as silence meant to sting, but as truth. Because your job is not to hold a place for someone who has not chosen to stand beside you. Your job is to remain rooted in the truth of who you are. A woman who does not force love. A woman who does not beg to be chosen. A woman who does not negotiate her worth. A woman who loves deeply without abandoning herself. This is where longing transforms, because longing does not disappear. It evolves. It stops being about him and starts being about you. You begin longing for your own expansion, your own growth, your own peace, your own alignment, and you no longer crave love that drains you. You crave love that meets you, the kind of love that recognizes your inner world, the kind of love that can sit with silence and not fear it, the kind of love that does not need games to feel alive. And so you rise, again, not loudly. Rise in how you speak to yourself. Rise in how you care for your mind. Rise in how you honor your emotions. Rise in how you choose who gets access to you. Your standards stop sounding like demands and start sounding like truth. You stop asking for emotional maturity. You embody it. You stop requesting respect. You require it by existing. You become uninterested in being liked and fiercely protective of being felt. Because the woman who is unforgettable is not unforgettable because of how she appeared, but because of how she affected. She is remembered in quiet moments, when the world slows, when adrenaline fades, when the noise dies down. She is remembered when he sits alone in his car at night, when he walks home and the air is cold, when he hears a song that pulls memory to the surface, when he meets someone new and something feels missing, not because she left something undone, but because she left something true. She did not try to impress. She did not try to be perfect. She did not try to compete. She did not try to hold on. She simply was. And that is the energy that cannot be replaced, because what is real cannot be replicated. Your softness was not naive, it was courageous. Your vulnerability was not weakness, it was intimacy. Your emotional depth was not intensity, it was honesty. Your attachment was not desperation, it was devotion. And devotion, when given without self-betrayal, is unforgettable. So here is the truth you must carry now. You are not someone who is chosen accidentally. You are someone who is recognized eventually. Not everyone will be ready for the kind of presence you offer. Not everyone has the emotional discipline to meet your depth. Not everyone has the courage to stand in the mirror your love reflects. And that is not a tragedy. It is selection. Life is selecting with you, not against you. Every person who could not meet you is clearing the path for the one who can. And the one who can will not need to be convinced. He will not need to be chased. He will not need to be reminded. He will know. He will experience the difference between emotional entertainment and emotional nourishment, between desire and devotion, between seeking intensity and building intimacy. He will see your value without you having to position it. He will respect your softness without mistaking it for fragility. He will feel the steadiness in your being and find himself steadier for having known you. And when that happens, you will realize you did not lose anything by letting go. You simply made room. Room for alignment, room for maturity, room for peace, room for love that feels like home, not adrenaline. Because you are the home. You always were. And you simply had to return to yourself long enough for someone to find the light on in your windows. So stand, not waiting, not hoping, not performing, just being. Because the woman who can stand in herself, unwavering, unshaken, self-possessed, awake, is the woman who is never replaced. Not in memory, not in presence, not in the heart,